YouTube friends. So today we are going to be doing the half LeMoyne star. And after building this block once, I learned a lot. So if you don't get it right the first time, cut double your pieces and try again. This block is not hard. However, it is full of Y seams. So the first thing you're going to need to do is this uses 5 fabrics. The E piece will be white, and your B, D, and A pieces will be light blue if you're following the pattern. And then you're going to come in and these C pieces will be a version of pink, and then the next row of C version will be purple, and then the very tips will be a different dark pink. So I have my pieces cut out, and this is the holy grail of templates. This is a very accurate template. Make sure you cut your pieces C very accurately, and you will cut 1 1/8 inch strips and then subcut these from that. These little tips here are key to the success of this block, so make sure you trim those to match the template. B and D triangles are actually the very same size. So what you'll want to do for your blue pieces is cut a strip 2 1/4 inches, cut a square from that, and then cut 4 triangles using your Tri-Rex ruler at 2 1/4 inches. And then again for your white piece, this is going to be a 6 1/2 inch strip that you will then subcut with your, sorry, did I say Tri-Rex ruler? This is easy angle ruler, and this will also be cut with the easy angle ruler. For simplicity, I'll leave these letters, but really and truly, you're not going to need them. You're going to know where the triangles go, you're going to know where the square goes, and you're going to know where these go. So let me lay this out. We're going to first start laying these pieces out, and we will sew those components before we do anything else. Okay, so first step, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the purplish C pieces, you're going to cut 8 of those. You're going to cut 4 of the pink and then 4 of the dark pink. And we're going to treat this as a 4 patch. So when you sew these together, you're going to sew these 2 components together and these 2 components together. And the great thing, because you have cut those funny angles, that's going to be your line-up mark. Make sure that you are sewing with a 1/4 inch scant. It will not start on the tips of these. Don't worry about that. Don't pay attention to it. Just sew these. These are funny angles, and once you combine all the funny angles together, then it works. All right, I have part of my 4 patch sewn. I have pressed all of these to the dark side, so I've pressed towards the purple. I am going to repeat this process for the other half of this 4 patch, and then we'll sew the 2 pieces together. Okay, now we're going to join our 4 patch. So this is a tricky angle to get right when you want to line up your points, but the good news is because you have trimmed these edges the right way, when you line up your raw edges, that's going to line up and that's going to line up, and you know that you have your scant 1/4 inch seam set right when that happens. All the planets align. So you'll go ahead and you'll sew this, and this is where I think I would have to go back and look where your 1/4 inch may or may not start right there, but it's definitely going to crisscross right where everything meets, right in the middle. All right, I have my 4 pieces done. They line up relatively well in the centers. At this time, you're going to press this seam open. I tried to get it to spin the seam. It just wouldn't work. So I recommend pressing this one open. And let me go press these and then we'll lay it out. Okay, I have all of these diamonds sewn. And here's where we're going to lay out. Here's piece E. And here's piece D. Piece C. No, piece B. Sorry. And then the square piece A. All right. So here's where you need to make a decision. If you want to sew this to this first or these two together first. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew these two together first. And when I sew these together, I'm going to make sure that I stop about here, right in line. So I'm sewing here. I'm going to stop about right there whenever I sew this. If you don't stop there, that's fine. You will just have to end up ripping out a couple of your stitches because we're going to be sewing this Y seam and we've got to remove them. So I'm going to sew these two diamonds together. Okay, when I open this up, I do not want to press it to open. I don't want to do that. That will bulk up this seam. I'm going to actually press towards the right. And this will actually help whenever you're doing your alignment of your Y seam. All right. I could technically right now sew these two diamond sets together, but I'm not going to do that. We're first going to tackle this Y seam. So when you line this up, you're going to line up this edge and this edge, and you're not really going to pay attention to this one. I'm going to pop this last stitch because I think I stitched too far. And when I go to sew this, I'm going to flip it out of the way. And let's see, maybe let me just fold that out of the way like that. Okay. And when I sew this, I'm going to sew it right up to where my stitch line is, which is a straight line across from that diamond tip right there. And when I open this up, I'm going to go ahead and press to the light side or the blue. And then because I've moved this out of the way, I should be able to fold this one back on itself, this end. Okay. And you folded that out of the way. And if it would help you, you may want to mark where your 1/4 inch everything comes together at that corner. All right, so I folded this out of the way. I can feel right there where my stitch is. That's where I need to put my needle down, and then I can sew off. And then when I open this up, I've already pressed that seam that way. I'm going to press this seam this way. I think we already did that. And then I'm going to flip this one this way. Just like that. And it'll fold funny right there, but that's okay. And I'm going to give this a good press. Okay. I will have a dog ear to trim. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And here's where I'm going to sew this triangle here. And where to line it up. So I'm going to line up this edge, and I'm going to make sure that this angle is in parallel with the other blue triangle that you've already sewn in your Y seam, because this is a little wonky here. Do not worry about this coming and meeting up with that angle. It's not going to happen, so don't worry about that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and press to the blue side. And when you unfold this, this should create a straight line. If it doesn't, you may need to readjust your 1/4 inch seam. I am going to repeat all these steps for this block, and then we'll come back and we'll sew this Y seam. All right, so now I'm going to join my 2 quadrants together, and I'm going to go ahead and pin this. Align all your raw edges, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to just mark. And I'm going to mark a 1/4 inch from this shorter seam. That piece is chunky, so I'm going to make a line, and then I'm going to use the less chunky line here, and that's going to be approximately where those two lines meet, is where I stop sewing, and I'm going to back tack right there. All right, you can see that I back tacked just 1 stitch right there. I just used my hand wheel and did that. Okay, because this seam is pressing this way and this one's pressing this way, we're going to press that one that way as well. Just like that. And now we're ready for a Y seam. Pick a side. I'm going to fold this out of the way, right back up onto itself, just like that. And I'm going to set my square in, and I'm going to align my 2 raw edges, this one, and I'm going to pin. You probably don't need to pin, but I'm going to. And then when I start stitching, right where that fabric's meeting is where everything meets. So that's where I'm going to start my stitch, and then I'm going to take 1 stitch, put it in reverse, take 1 stitch back, put it in forward, and then continue to sew. Okay. And then I'm going to fold the back part side of the square out of the way. I'm still pivoting right on this seam. And I'm going to align this raw edge and this raw edge. For whatever reason, that ended up chunky. I'm going to cut it out of the way because I want to be able to butt this up on my 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, I cut off the chunky part, and when I stitch, I'm going to do the same thing as I did last time. I'm going to find that, I'm going to put my needle down right there, I'm going to take 1 stitch, so I'm going to work the hand wheel, put it in reverse, work the hand wheel, put in 1 more stitch, and then put it in forward gear again, and then sew off the edge. All right, let's open this up. The reason why I did the back tack stitch is because I don't want any of my pop stitches to show, because I'm using white thread. It'd probably be a good idea to use the correct color thread when you're doing this. Okay, just like before on this angle, we decided to press this one this way, and then on your blue piece, I'm going to press that seam that way. On this one, however, I'm going to flip this one. Actually, this one's a square. I don't have to flip it. I'm going to press that one towards the blue as well. It's going to create a little funny spot right there of thickness, but it'll be fine. I'm going to press, and then we'll join our two halves together. Okay, if I've made this correctly, when I line this up, everything's going to align, but you know, it's sewing. Okay, I'm going to line up my corner here. I'm going to pin in the center. And then I'm going to line up this raw edge over here. And then I'm going to line up this edge and I'm going to pin. Notice that this is not a straight line. That is because we are dealing with the bulk of the fabric. Technically, you could probably pull that up and pin it and it will be just fine. Again, here I'm going to line up my raw edges. Then line up let me see that. Okay, I can tell that I've got something wonky, and that's fine. So I'm just going to line up this edge, and then we will deal with this when we cut it away after we trim it up our block. Okay, it's ready to sew. All right, this is my report card. Let's see how I did. Normally we press to the dark side, but I'm going to go ahead and press to the white. And this tip is perfectly in alignment, so I know I have this to this corner is going to be accurate. This corner is probably going to be accurate. This corner is a little wonky, so let me give this a good press. All right. Let's see how I did. I'm going to go ahead, this point I'm going to lose. That sucks, because the rest of this block is so lovely. But I am okay with losing a point. And I sat there and I played with this. That is going to be the only point that I'm going to lose. But I'm going to end up trimming around all 4 edges. This was a lot of angles coming together. I'm very pleased with how this come out. This is probably a more difficult block, but it went together flawlessly, and I think it's because PC had those angles cut, those chamfers cut off the corners, and it made this go together so much easier. Very easy to align this. I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. Don't shy away from this. Let me show you my first block. So my first block is all red. And I've lost points here, and then these points will be floating. I lost that point. It's not perfect, but you know what? You step away from it 6 foot, and you're not even going to see that. These reds are all so close together in color, you're probably not going to see any of it. I'm very happy with this block, and I challenge you to try this. Cut twice as many pieces, or cut 1 block the colorway, and then 1 block whatever you have of scraps to practice this, because practice does make perfect. Again, this was my second block, and my second block is a whole lot better than my first block. So thanks for sewing along. Those of you who are not sewing along but still watching my videos, I appreciate it. It's very, very difficult right now to create other content while I'm doing this sew along, because I have to, there's so many steps I have to do to push this content out to you, and to work something else in between is very difficult because, well, we all know when we're busy and knee deep in a project that you switch gears, it creates great difficulty. So stay tuned. I will try and push other content for those of you who are not sewing along. I have a storage idea that I have up and coming, that most of you have this storage component, and it was a game changer for me. I will have that coming up in the next week or so. I'm going to try and make a tote bag and upcycle from denim in the next month. So stay tuned for that, and just keep watching. I sure do appreciate it. Till next time.